Don't shut it off. I'm warning you.
Welcome to Strange Glow Videos. Well, that's what I heard.
Aren't you going to introduce me to your team?
Hosted by Alec, Justin, and Nick.
Well, that's what I heard.
Welcome back to another Well, That's What I Heard by Strange Glow Video. Tonight, today, tomorrow, whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it's right away because the embargo for reviews on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire has just been lifted. And you are hearing this first from us. We witnessed this movie at the world premiere in New York City on the 14th day of the third month of the 2024 year. And we're going to give you our thoughts on the movie. Full spoilers. So if you don't want to know about this movie,
He said the secret word.
pause
Spoilers.
this shit and come back after you've seen it, because we're going to fucking talk about everything.
I'm going to talk
Now
about every goddamn last thing. Peter Venkman dies. Just kidding. But maybe he does. I don't know. We'll talk about it later, or will we?
Yeah, so we're going to get into this.
Stay tuned.
Now, keep in mind, this is just initial thoughts, reactions after seeing this one time in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do a more in-depth breakdown on things a little bit later, but
If you want to hear about our experience on the trip and the premiere itself, everything regarding not just the viewing of the film itself, because that's all we're going to talk about as the movie. We're not going to talk about, oh, we were on the red carpet and then this and this. We already did that. Go listen to that podcast that already came out before this one.
yes, go do that. And please like and subscribe if you're not already.
Share with your
then-
friends. And
and
they'll
they'll
tell
share
two
a friend.
friends.
And they'll tell two friends.
Same page.
Mhm.
So let's kind of do this in order as well as we remember it. Obviously we've seen the movie once. So we spoiler warning, last spoiler warning. We are talking about the movie now. The movie opens up.
1904.
Yeah,
a flashback.
1904. And we're at the firehouse.
We are at the firehouse. We see the firehouse get called out, which, so first thought on this, right? And this is very fucking pretentious and it's an asshole move to say, but in 1904, the firehouse was double-sided. It was double wide, had two garage bays. In 1912, I believe, is when they cut it in half to widen the road there. So they cut hook and ladder 8 in half, shrink it down. So historically, this movie is inaccurate to that. But that's fine.
Ooh.
And I have looked around to try to find photos or drawings of it as a double wide. I think I've maybe seen one photo on the internet, obviously, turn of the century there. Turn of the other century, not the, 99 to 2000, but 1899 to 1900. It's been a while. But I really like seeing the flashback there. That set looked cool. Like it showed like the old horse and carriages and the horse-drawn fire carriages. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fun.
And they go to a place and then you've got this throwback fire crew. They got to go in there and then obviously they realize that there's some frosty shit going on. Like this door, they're expecting this fucking door to be like hot, and they touch it, and they're like, "It's freezing cold."
It's cold, air cold.
Damn, yeah, exactly. It's got fucking Doc Brown vibes all over it, which works. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so they go in this room. It's kind of what you've seen in the trailers of the old firefighters, and they touch a guy and they break, and there's one person there that looks kind of like they're meditating in like a weird golden metallic brass, I guess it's probably brass, right? Outfit.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
So no, that's correct. And so I believe what we're seeing there is the Manhattan Adventurers Society or something like that.
Yes.
By full spoilers and if you're looking for spoilers and you haven't seen this yet, the other way to kind of track along to the movie is to look at the score, because the score gives a lot of shit away as far as the track titling goes. That's up there now, which, I mean, Afterlife's did the same thing. So, but I think that doesn't That one actually released like a week early ahead of the movie. I think this one doesn't release until the movie's out, but you can see the track listing now.
Well, they at least released like two pieces, I think, early. Remember, Lab Partners and something else were released
Yep.
early.
Mhm.
That's what it was. Not all of it, but so we kind of see some shenanigans with the little orb. I can't even remember all the full details since we've only seen it once, but
So there's a woman holding the orb there, and like at that point in time, like the room's cold, but whatever has gone on, it seems to have been contained or stopped at that point. And she's the only living person in the room.
yeah. So, how does this scene conclude?
I don't have a great recollection of how that scene concludes. I think it just kind of jumps to modern times where,
Well, we do get it turning into the Ghostbusters logo from there, don't we?
yeah, I think that's where it kicks in with the logo, and then
it shows New York, and then we get straight into busting the sewer dragon of Hell's Kitchen.
yep, that's a cool shot. Really like that little chase sequence.
Yeah, just getting right into it. Love it.
It's for me, this is perfect because this is the first Ghostbusters movie we have where we're just into it. There's no starting up the business. There's nothing else. This is the first time we've had a flashback scene. Like it was, in my opinion, fucking awesome that it was like so fresh. Something I wasn't expecting. Like I knew we didn't have to watch a startup, so I knew we were going to get right into it. So
Yeah.
that was amazing. And that was a fun scene. Like you see all the danger and everything going on, and like proton streams fucking shit up.
Yeah.
Phoebe and Callie have that great exchange between like, hey, she's like, stay in the car.
Yeah.
And then, she wants Gary to back her up later, which, they kind of get into like a little bit of a lovers.
Well, yeah, this is kind of where they're introducing this arc of several arcs at once, actually. It's pretty cool the way they're laying the foundation of this when I'm looking back on it. One of those being Gruberson feeling like a father figure to these kids, but not knowing how to be stern and what his limits and boundaries are. And Callie loving him and wanting him to be in that position and wanting him to do good. And,
wanting him
kind
to
of the
see
dynamic there, essentially. And then also Phoebe's arc, which we'll get into, I think, when it becomes more relevant when we're talking about it. But she's hanging out the side of the vehicle, and I love it that Gruberson's like, oh, come on, that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was a great introduction to the character writing. And to me, like, you can easily see that that's why Gil and Jason wrote this like together as a writing pair, because they were able to continue that family storyline, which I really appreciated throughout the movie, that it felt like it was directly tied to Afterlife, right? It doesn't feel super disconnected, even though we're in a completely different thing. We're seeing something completely fresh. Like we know these characters and we're kind of seeing their modern struggles, which, judging by ages, I think, Trevor was 15 in the last one. He's 18 now, they say. So 3-year gap.
And again, his arc is sort of brought up here too, at least a bit of it, where he's like, I want to be the one driving, he brings up, and they're like, yeah, no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he basically says that he wants to drive, and yeah.
He ends up they end up crashing? He crashes into the bikes. Gruberson does.
Yeah, so Trevor's in the back. They try to deploy the RTV. It doesn't work, doesn't have the range to get the sewer dragon, and then so Callie pops out the drone trap, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you think about ghost busting, like, that's the first piece of modern ghost busting tech we see in the movie, right? I mean, the remote trap is still cool. The packs are kind of the same, like what we expect from the gunner seat and everything there. So that's all fun and dandy, but obviously the Ecto one's been restored. They got the racing stripes going all the way to the front. Like, we get to see all these cool things, but the biggest change there is the drone trap on the roof. So,
yeah.
Had fun with that. And obviously, yeah, they wreck through. By the time they catch the sewer dragon, like, there's this whole wreck. Gary goes off-roading with it, almost hits some people, destroys one of those electric bike charging posts.
Mm-hmm.
Just trashes a place. Almost hits a ton of people. So
solid.
Mm-hmm. And so then we jump to that scene where we've kind of seen in the trailers where it's basically Peck scolding them.
Mm-hmm. Which
And
is fun. Which is really the. Did we even see Peck again after this?
at the end of the movie, and I'm trying to think if there's another spot because there's a kind of like some still shots or trailer shots where we kind of see them all in the same room with Winston. So it's a fog right now. I will tell you that.
Oh yeah, I was about to say I do remember later outside with the reporters
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the movie for sure. Okay, so
Yeah. We also learned that Peck is the mayor now, right? And so like
yeah.
that was on our bingo card.
Mhm.
Like there's debate, like, is he a judge? Is he a mayor? Well, I'm like, well, if he's a judge, he didn't have the robe on, so that's why we're thinking mayor.
Well, also he wouldn't have a robe on if he was just in his fucking office. So it
And his
was
quarters, he may or may
reasonable.
not. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah,
No, like if he was not at court, he wouldn't be wearing his robes. Like if it was just the day where he's in his office, there's no reason to be fucking walking around in robes. So
yeah.
it made logical sense for him to be either or. But it is interesting that he's mayor now. It's sure, why not? You know, fuck it. It's funny.
Yeah.
Their interaction's good. Gruberson's funny. What else happens in this scene?
This is essentially when,
He tells them that
Phoebe.
yeah. It's the whole thing about her being a minor and being in
Well,
charge of
that's
a laser and the danger and everything, and they're
yeah. See,
not being paid.
that is the big piece there. That Phoebe's a minor. She's not getting paid for that, and Trevor's 18, so there's not much to say there. But basically, they're saying that you're endangering a child here. So, kind of pushing that. But then obviously, somebody gets arrested.
Yep,
And
Phoebe gets arrested. We don't see what she like. He says something about like, yeah, keep pushing me and I'll arrest you. And then the next thing we just cut to her being in handcuffs in a back room.
yeah. And I mean, I'm assuming for ratings and stuff, like you don't need to know what she says, but I'm very curious, like, to what she says. Like, she's an intelligent person, so like, what kind of an insult does she say to Peck? Because that's got to be as good as what Venkman said to her
Yeah.
in a more articulate way.
So after that, they go back home to the firehouse that night and kind of tell Phoebe, yeah, you're done for right now.
Yeah,
Like,
basically you're suspended until you're 18, kind of a thing.
and
you
she's
just need
like,
to
well, this fucking blows, and goes up to her room. You just get a little bit of a slice of life feel here with what their life was like at the firehouse, which is nice. Just cool to see more of the firehouse and the way they've done this building and everything. It's awesome. They're hanging out. Again, it shows the state of the containment unit. Like it's hard to, like it's fucking full as fuck. Essentially, is what they're implying here. It's hard to even get the lever to come down to get the trap clean or whatever, empty.
Yeah, and they have that. Yeah, basically they're having to fight it, right? And so kind of getting some good vibes there. So,
is this where Phoebe goes to the park that night?
yes, I believe
she goes
so.
there. She brings.
So she goes. Yeah, she goes out there and she brings chess pieces and sets them up on the board. And right in the trailer, a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is Egon. This is Egon," and I'm like, they made it pretty fucking clear that it's not going to be Egon, but I get why people would think that because it's chess pieces again, which clearly just shows that maybe she's picked up an appreciation of chess because of Egon, or like we don't really see ahead of time. Like, was that her chessboard in Afterlife? Either way, it just carries that thread. But this is where shit gets kind of crazy. Crazy in a way that I wasn't expecting. Crazy in a way that some people are going to fucking hate. I can tell you that right now. There's going to be some fucking people that don't like that.
No, this makes total sense. I like it.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
So we're introduced by way of her playing chess and then the chess pieces moving on their own again to a new ghost character. Major spoiler alert. Emily Allen Lynn is playing, didn't catch the name of the character, or at least I don't remember it now.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on it. I think the diner says it, like the diner's named after her or whatever. Later on, we
Oh,
see.
Melody.
Yeah,
Melody, that's it. Yeah, I remember
and,
now.
and so we see a ghost appear. She manifests, so she's visible to Phoebe, and Phoebe like doesn't even fucking flinch,
Yeah.
like doesn't care. Like, oh, okay, cool.
And she's like, "Why are you scared? Why aren't you scared of me?" She's like, I don't know. I'm not that worried about it. You're a ghost. What do you want from me?" She's like, "All right, well, I guess we'll play some fucking chess then."
Yeah, and they
And they
kind
hang
of
out.
they kind of bond there. And the interesting piece with her is, oh, she asked her why she's not horribly disfigured, and she said because um, she died before her body burned. But like you see like little flames on a few spots of her body there to kind of imply that. So that was
Yeah.
pretty interesting. I thought that was pretty cool.
I like the way the effect looks for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a kind of blue ghost. It's like almost Star Wars esque, but on fire a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember here. Did we skip over? I think we skipped over Raise a Cult. I think that scene happens kind of is an in between scene, is it not?
I don't know. I thought that might happen after this, but either way, we'll just talk about it after this since we've already talked about that. Now we can talk about the
Okay.
Raise a Cult, which hilarious scene with Ray and podcast recording this show for
Mhm.
YouTube.
Yeah, they're
Amazing.
basically doing their repossess show, which is awesome because podcast is coaching Ray on this the whole time. Like you see all the people in line bringing their stuff in, and Ray explains what a PKE meter is and how they're going to see if there's any like a possessed item. And so the item they're looking at is a watch. An older woman, like wanting to hear from her husband, like puts this watch on there, and like Ray pulls out the PKE meter, nothing. And then podcast pulls out this fucking comically large fucking hammer, and they smash the item afterwards. And basically, like that's what gets the views is like the item getting destroyed. So,
And spoiler for those wondering, they do reveal podcast's real name, at least his last name. It's Gallagher.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was just thinking. Like, oh, the Gallagher moment. So,
No, I thought that was hilarious. He just like smashed the shit out and was like, "Sorry, gets views."
no, that was pretty cool to see that. And then we're kind of still in that same vibe where we see Camille Nanjiani's character come into the shop, brings in a box of stuff, and I think one of the other things that this movie does so well is the comedy is back, and the comedy like fits in perfectly.
Oh, it's so funny.
Everyone that needs to be funny in here is funny, and it's genuinely funny. It's not like a fair amount of it feels like natural. It doesn't feel forced, which helps a lot. Like
Yeah.
Camille's character is basically trying to sell this stuff. He's like, yeah, and my grandma passed away recently, and like I inherited all of the shit of hers. And he's got this whole box of stuff, and like Ray kind of starts to pilfer through it and finds the orb. I don't know if that's what they called it in there, but that's what we're calling it. So
Yeah.
and we kind of see that he starts taking readings with the PKE meter, goes right off the charts, fucking destroys the PKE meter, destroys the glass that it's sitting on the table. This thing's having an adverse reaction to that. It doesn't like it, which is pretty cool, right? I thought that was pretty neat. And then that's when you see the containment unit kind of shake, and like we see the first damage done down in the containment unit when all this kind of happens, like this turbulent psychic event kind of goes on in there and fucks things up.
Yeah.
Destroys some stuff. And then is this one we see Phoebe visit podcast down in his room in the basement of Ray's Occult?
Let's just say it is. And we can talk about that. There's some mini puffs down there, and he's just like kind of explained that he lied to his parents and told them he's like a space camp or something.
Yeah, he says at NASA camp or something. Yeah.
And then he's like playing space sounds while he's talking to him on the phone for a second.
Yeah, he puts out a fucking tape deck and plays it. The thing I did like though too is
that had Nightmare on Elm Street vibes when Johnny Depp calls his mom and is playing like the airport sounds in the background.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know that was great. And then, they see the mini puffs and he's like, yeah, Ray smuggled them back from Somerville. And so they're just down there and there's a shitload of them still. And they're just fucking being weird and like climbing all around. But then we start seeing that their behavior's a little erratic after that explosion too.
Yeah.
So that was pretty neat. And then one thing that really stood out to me was how fucking good the rendering on those mini puffs looked. Like they looked like living marshmallow. Like just the texture on them was fucking perfect this time around. And like last time it looked pretty good, but this time some of them looked just fucking stunning in that scene. Really enjoyed
pretty
that.
good. I can't remember if this is exactly one, but we are at some point back at the firehouse, and Trevor's in his room, and his ceiling is leaking, and he's just like sticking his finger in there, and you're like, ugh, don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And during this time, I think also Gruberson is like unplugged his ribbon cable on his proton pack and is like, I don't know how to do this. Phoebe, could you help me out? Because he's like trying to make her feel important and a part of things, because even if she can't ghost bust, she's still the smartest person there, and he knows that. And
Yeah, and he's trying to bond with her and trying to make her feel better because he feels guilty. And then by this point, he's already had the conversation with Callie where they're down like doing laundry, and she's basically saying like, you need to be firm with them too. And so,
yeah, and he's like, I don't know what the boundaries are. I want to be that person, and she's like, yeah, full permission.
Yeah, she basically is like unleashes it like, hey, you're in this, like you need to do that. So,
so then we get the Trevor's first interaction with Slimer. He's like, fuck it, I'm going up there. And he grabs a trap and he's just like walking up the stairs. He trips up the stairs. Just natural comedy.
Mm-hmm. Like Chevy Chase style, like fucking physical comedy. That's hilarious. And like that may have been, he may have actually tripped going up those stairs and it just stayed because it's fucking hilarious. Like everyone I know has probably tripped walking up the stairs.
It's funny because of his attitude towards it. He doesn't even grab a pack. He just has a trap and he's just like, I'm going to go up there and do this real quick.
Yeah.
Because nobody was going to help me or care. And she was like, yeah, you're 18. Deal with it yourself.
Yeah.
So he goes up there and, of course, we've all seen the scene in the trailer where Slimer slimes right through him and he sort of slimes his face. So he gets slime in his mouth and spits it out, which is hilarious.
Mm-hmm. And then you get all the Easter eggs up there too. You get to see like all the GB2 stuff, like it's in the attic, and the promotional marketing material and stuff is all up there. So you get to see all that, which is cool. It's nice. Yeah. I appreciate that. Oh, we forgot to mention that whole fucking news segment earlier is talking about that was the most damage that the Ghostbusters have caused since 1989.
Yeah, and they showed the Statue of Liberty marching down.
Yeah, they give you in like the Kenner toy commercials, basically saying that like in universe the song exists, the toys existed, like Ghostbusters 2 is canon, like stop fucking bringing it up. And I thought that was really cool. I appreciated that. I thought that was fun. Like you could have said, I mean, there's gonna be people that are like, oh, that's overdone. They didn't have to be that direct. And I'm like, no, that's fucking perfect because people love that. Like I love seeing that.
No, it's just a fun little bit.
I was so happy to see that. I was like, great. People can stop debating like whether 2 is canon. I'm like, no, it's fucking canon. They've already said that, but
let's be honest, the debate's been over, and anybody dumb enough to still be debating it before this movie comes out will still debate it because they're morons.
Yeah, that's true.
So whatever.
Yeah, because the Geiger meter was in the last movie, right? So
raise a cult that's all you fucking need, bro. Just sit on it.
The evidence is all there. But yeah.
So then we're back at Raise a Cult, and essentially somehow Phoebe and Podcast are convincing Ray to get in on their adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly by this point in time, like Ray has like this, like the sad eyes look, because we don't see this call, but Phoebe is stuck behind when Gary, Callie, and Trevor all go out on a call.
Oh, yes. And then they get a call from, where is it? She answers the phone and is like, hello.
Oh, yeah. Callie or Phoebe answers the call from Melody's Diner, and she goes and gets Podcast. Right. But before that, they go and talk to Ray and be like trying to figure out what's going on. So because Ray has that moment when he sees the Ecto-1 drive by and like he gets that sad look in his eyes. So
They went
this,
to Ray after Melody's Diner, I think.
okay, yeah, but you kind of see that Ray is the outcast. He definitely misses ghost busting. He really wants to be out there in the action still.
But Winston is kind of like, yeah, you're not built for this anymore, dude. Just kind of stay in the background of things like I am.
Yeah.
We're not the dudes for this anymore. We can help these people, but
They have the whole
And
golden
Ray's
years
just
speech.
like, I want the glory, dude. I want to be busting these fucking ghosts. I want to be fucking shooting some goddamn proton beams and shit. And so they go to the Melody's Diner or whatever, and they go in and see that it's Melody. And she's like, oh. Like she freezes and is just pointing the neutrino wand at her. And Podcast is like, shoot her, shoot her, shoot her. What are you doing? Shoot her.
Yep.
And then
she intentionally misses, and so
she apparates away. So later that night, she's visited by her. She like comes to the firehouse and is outside of her window with her radio.
Yeah.
No,
it felt very much like Michael outside the window.
Oh, exactly.
Or
the fucking Salem's Lot.
Yeah, but it was funny because she's like, "You gonna invite me into your ghost, elimination business headquarters or whatever?" It's pretty funny.
And so they're hanging out.
Yeah.
And
can't forget that kind of like as all this is going on, we see the paranormal research lab where we see they take the orb over there, right? Ray takes it over there. And because the rest of the group doesn't see it till a little bit later, but Ray takes it over there. They kind of show what's going on with it. You get the slime blower cameo. Well, the slime blower cameo is a little bit later on, but you see all the cool tech they're working with there.
Yeah. And you see some background characters there, but James A. Caster is kind of the only face really that's there. Besides Lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
So we get, Lucky's reintroduction and James A. Caster, which is a welcome addition. I hope he's back for more in the future.
Yeah. I wouldn't say he's underutilized in this, but like he has a good character introduction that just makes you want more of his character.
Yeah, for sure. There's enough Ghostbusters in this. It's like, how are you going to force him into having a real huge arc or anything? But I don't know. I really like his character. He's fun. Interesting.
He's different. Like he's like an Egon type, but he's odd in his own way, like in a different way.
He's also a little snarkier.
Yeah. Yeah. His sense of humor is kind of dickish. And I kind of like that. Like he knows he's smarter than a lot of people, probably besides Phoebe, but Phoebe has that innocence of being youthful. So,
yeah. So
we see him fuck his hand up on the orb when he's like looking at it. And then they show us that ghost extractor from the paranormal objects, right? Because Ray brings down all the objects that are haunted.
Yeah.
And they basically extract or break the bond between the device and the ghost. And then what do they show us there? They show Pukey get separated there. Is that? Or is that Possessor? They show us one of them.
No, it's... I don't fucking remember now. I think both of those are already in the containment unit thing. I thought, but either way,
we see this like black and yellow Sony CD player, like Sony Walkman CD player that a lot of people are looking for, like already that have seen this movie. So
yeah,
prices on those just went up on eBay. And so that ghost gets separated, and then we see that it puts it into a trap, and they go put the trap in there, and they've got this whole new containment setup over there, which is cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's fun. We'll obviously see the new engineering outfits and everything going there. That's fun. We've already seen that, but just to see it up on the big screen, see everything working with it. Then they decide they need to go investigate Kamal. Nadim, the guy who got the orb. So who is that? Is it Trevor and Phoebe and podcast that go over there?
Did Bray go with him too? I thought there was a grown up with him, but I can't recall.
Yeah, I think so. I think
But
it's the four of them.
Yeah, and so they basically go over there and they're like, hey man, like you dropped this thing off, because at first he's like, I've already spent the money.
Yeah,
And like,
there's some funny interactions there.
and then as soon as they say we're not here for the money, they're like, okay. And then he basically explains how he finds this like chamber hidden in his grandma's apartment that he's been living in. So I'm assuming he's been living with her, but he finds a hidden room in there, which the hidden room is basically a containment unit, an ancient containment unit is essentially how it's explained, because the sound isn't supposed to travel in there. Everything's supposed to be a certain way in there. And they basically show this hand, and they show the costume that the character was wearing in the flashback scene in 1904.
Yeah, the brass costume.
Mm-hmm. And the orb is not in this hand. And like, I'm assuming the orb was in this hand, and basically that's removing it from that kind of started fucking things up.
Yeah. So from there, they head to the library, or did they already go to the library? Either way, we'll talk about the library part.
Yeah.
They convince Ray to get out on and they take the this is where we get the motorcycle scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ray's got the motorcycle, and it appears to be near Ray's occult, like where they pull it out of a garage or wherever he's staying at.
Yeah, pretty sick.
So, yep.
They take the motorcycle over to the library. He parks it, and I like this where they're just like, she's like, Dr. Stantz, I don't think this is like a parking space, and he's just like, it's all right, they know me here.
Yeah, and that's fucking Dan Aykroyd vibes to the T right there. Just like, yeah, I'm good. We're good.
Yeah, especially the motorcycle in general is Dan Aykroyd vibes.
Mm-hmm.
He's all about his vehicles. So, then of course we're greeted by the librarian from the first movie, and he's like, "Oh no, get the fuck out of here! Come on, stop."
Yeah, he basically says there's like a restraining order. He's not supposed to be there, and he's like, "Come on, man, leave me alone."
Yeah, Ray just kind of is like, just walks right past him.
Yeah, he goes in, and then that's where we get introduced to Hubert, and they kind of see him in a room, and then they chat with him, and they kind of show him this recording that Podcast recorded on his phone, and he thinks he's getting fucked with. He's like, "No, you guys are fucking with me. Who put you up to this?" Because he's like, "This is a dead language. No one speaks it. There's like a handful of people that could even understand it if they listened to it." Then they go into the old part of the library, which is cool.
Yeah.
And we kind of go through the history books, and then obviously we get that little trailer clip where he explains the death chill of 1904. First time people died in the summer in a heat wave.
Yeah, and we see the librarian ghost, and it is just a short little cameo of the librarian ghost, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But fun nonetheless, but I wish it hadn't been in the trailer, simply because it was basically just that.
Yeah, there's nothing more to it than that. Now, I forget, why are they in a hurry when they're getting out of there? Is there like another turbulent
Possessor.
event? Oh, yeah, Possessor Ghost. Okay.
Possessor has the the wax tube from the original phonograph.
Yeah, which they're trying to play because to release Garraka, they basically need to have a human read this thing off. And so that wax tube is already a recording of a human saying that. And so Possessor Ghost, if you've seen these toys, possesses a trash bag for a while.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So black trash bag possession. They chase it outside all the way to the front, and then they don't want that phonograph to get away, but that phonograph gets broken in the interaction, and then obviously it possesses the lion ghost, which makes sense.
Statue.
Yeah, the lion ghost. Yeah, the lion statue. You know what I meant.
So yeah, then they shoot the tail off of that and explode that. After Ray shows them how to reveal that there's a proton wand hidden on the motorcycle. So it's pretty sweet. Like it implies it's an old Ghostbusters vehicle that he just like uses as his personal vehicle now if he needs one. Yeah, I mean, he lives in New York City, so it's probably not often that he needs it, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I
When he's
like
on
that.
ghost busting business at all, he probably just hops on that shit like, oh, there's something ghost related. We better use this.
And that wand to me looked like the one in Afterlife that they had originally set up for inside the car, but I think during some of the shooting they'd swapped a couple of the wood gripped wands because that's still like a shotgun grip at the front.
Yeah. So that scene's cool, but then it looks like, is that when all the police show up?
Yeah, because they get in trouble for all the property destruction, and that's like doesn't Peck. Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's what causes Peck to come and shut them down. Basically, Peck says like we're ceasing
Yeah.
cease and desist, and so they're shutting down the business, and so they say, you barely got any time left in here, but they confiscate all the proton packs, and they didn't take the ecto, which is interesting, but they confiscated all the packs and traps, which obviously kind of explains the shift a little bit later on from that. So
Yeah. It's hard to recall exactly what's happening next.
well, we get that fucking scene at the paranormal research lab where they call Venkman in.
Oh yeah, they realized he's giving off like PK readings. Nadim. So they bring him back to the paranormal lab, and Venkman's like, "We're just gonna ask you a series of questions. You just gotta answer them." And he's being a snarky asshole to Venkman. And he just keeps throwing fucking pens and hitting him in the face.
Yeah.
But again, it's reminding me of the card scene in the first movie, because he's not just being a dick. He is testing him by throwing that. Like, it's a part of the test.
Yeah. Exactly.
He's trying to test if he's possessed, essentially. That's what they think. He might be possessed.
For me, I love the fact that we saw Venkman in that early in the movie. Like, I was not expecting him to show up until way later on. The fact that he came in there was still helping out as needed, because clearly he's got the personality for it. Like, Winston's not going to do that. Ray's not going to do that. Clearly, we saw that Lars wasn't going to do that. So, like, Venkman's down there being like the guy that they need, right? He has
He has
fucking specific
PhDs
skill
in psychology and parapsychology, so
exactly. He's qualified.
He's perfect for this job. I like that. It makes perfect sense. Like, this is thought out shit.
Yeah, he's got the psychology degree. Like the other ones, I think just have the parapsychology degree, but he's got. And that's another
one of the funny lines in that movie where he's like,
"Have you experienced deja vu?"
Yeah, and he says no. He goes, "Okay. Have you ever experienced deja vu?"
Yeah, and then Nadim basically says it with him the second time, knowing that he's fucking with him. So
yeah, well, he talks about deja vu in Groundhog Day too, which is funny because I watched that on the plane ride back. So I was like, Bill Murray and his deja vu.
Yep. So that's a good little setup, and then we basically, he's kind of there along for the ride at that point.
Yeah.
And then
they go back to the firehouse at this point, or I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they essentially have that existential crisis, like, hey, is this the last time we're going to be at the firehouse? And they're just like, I don't know. Is this our last night? And then I believe this is about the time that they all tour the research lab, because they're kind of asking like what's going on, I think, right?
Yeah, that might be around here. Either way, they do the tour there. It's nothing you haven't seen in the trailer. It's a little extended version. There might be some quick in there I don't remember and stuff, but
you get to see all the ghosts in there, like the possessor ghost, and I guess this was a little bit earlier on, but I'm trying to remember why they finally get taken down there eventually. I think Winston takes him down there to kind of show him what the hell's been going on.
Well, when he's talking about the containment unit, he's like,
oh, yeah.
Because they're looking at Egon's plans for the containment unit and everything.
Yeah, which is some cool drawings. And they basically say, like, what do we do if we're running out? And Winston's basically like, oh, we're already planning ahead.
We already built one.
And at that point in time, they say it would take like 5 to 7 years to transport ghosts one at a time out of that containment unit at the fire hall.
Yeah.
And they explain that that's the only reason they kept the firehouse, was to maintain that, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that kind of adds up and like works very well for the story, I thought.
For sure. And then let's see. Phoebe's hanging out with Melody again,
Mm-hmm.
and she figures out a way to what they call it, spirit walk later, something like that.
Yeah, but we also have that little bit of dialogue in there too, where we see Melody basically talking to Garraka essentially, because Garraka is like able to influence the other ghosts and spirits around,
Yeah.
and they basically tell us at this point in time that Garraka has instructed this ghost to go like get Phoebe and like cause this whole thing.
Yeah, do something. We don't know what exactly. Does it have to be her? I think is one of the lines.
Yeah, because she actually, I think, they show that those two clearly had a bond, like right, kindred spirits essentially. Pun intended.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. So yeah, they go back there and she gets her soul sucked out of her body into the machine.
She's got a 2-minute timer on it, but during that time, Garraka is able to manipulate
her
Melody, and then Melody's
he manipulates what's her face?
Phoebe's ghost to speak out of Phoebe's body. Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Super weird, but like whatever, it works. Say the words to unlock, his little ancient ghost trap.
Uh-huh.
So then he's free.
Shatters gets freed. This is pre-horn, so obviously this is where we see Lucky come in and try to stop Garraka to begin with, and fails.
Mm-hmm. And dies. Just kidding.
Yeah. No, and then we see like the timer run out essentially, so Phoebe like turns back into her body. Yeah. And is she frozen at that point? Does she try? I'm trying to think, like, because they put her in the jacket when they pick her up in the Ecto one, and they like realize. Well,
she's not frozen. She's cold as fuck and like fucked up, but she's not like frozen per se. That's where they basically tell her, "You're back on as a full Ghostbuster. I don't give a fuck about Peck."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you kind of get that familiar bond like repaired there. Like, hey, like we're not mad at you. Like we're just concerned with you. Like, right.
We're just glad you're okay, yeah.
Yeah, Phoebe's kind of blaming herself for this, and it's like not really necessarily her, kind of the manipulation piece going around there. So, and then while all this is going on, we kind of also learn about the Fire Master stuff.
The Fire Master.
Which
is dangerously close to being, but works.
When you put yourself, like, if we were to have just read this in the synopsis, people would be like, what the fuck? But it works very well in the movie. There are going to be people that don't like this, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Like, to me, like, you're going to have all kinds of fantastical shit that could happen in a Ghostbusters movie just because that's what's going on. Like, we are going to explain it with science, but we're also going to explain, like, other things with it, too. Which kind of explains his, like, the reason why he shows up on a PKE meter, right? And they had concerns with him is like that, and it makes it like it sounds like obviously they don't spell it out for you to a T, but they basically imply that like that's a trait passed on from generation to generation because that's how we get that really cool scene showing how the Fire Masters basically trapped Garraka after Garraka went rogue from the ancient king that it served, or he served. I guess they do refer to him as a him. So,
So yeah, he's a fire master. He's practicing his fire master skills, like fire bending, like he's fucking airbender, firebender, whatever the fuck. And,
which is great because he sucks at it, right? And they're like, light the candle.
Yeah, that scene's kind of funny. Just when Ray realizes it's working, he's just like, basically, at this point, they realize like Garraka goes to his apartment. Gets his fucking horns, and it's just fucking shit up like immediately. Like the movie's starting to climax already here at this point.
Yeah, like
so
once the horns are back on is kind of when you see all those trailer scenes where everything starts to fucking freeze over.
Yeah. This is your somebody get me the Ghostbusters scene, which didn't happen, but I wanted somebody to say that. I wanted Peck to have to say that, you know. That'd have been good.
That would have been awesome. Yeah, so there's, that wasn't there, but it's fine.
But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. There's always the future.
No montage.
We get the stuff starting to freeze over. The general city's freezing over. And then Bill Murray shows up at the firehouse. Everybody's getting ready for like absolute fucking war. Like Ernie's suited up and he's fucking good to go. Like it shows him putting all his outfit on like he's goddamn Batman.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously we see the Mercedes vans show up and they say, like, what about the packs? Because obviously Peck has confiscated all those. So they're like, oh, don't worry about that. We got plenty of new shit. Which is great because I've obviously refined things. And like they even comment about how things have been refined on there and make sense. So like it's the equipment you love, but just enough change that if someone's going to rebuild it or make more, kind of made sense. I wasn't mad about it at all.
No, it's fine.
And then
whatever.
And then we forget that earlier Phoebe had stashed the Spangler pack underneath her bed upstairs.
Yeah.
So during all this, they basically realize, kind of do the research to realize that you need the extra strength to, I think they needed the copper to coat or the brass. They needed the brass to coat the some of the parts in the cyclotron. So like you see them take part of the brass fire pole and melt it down, and Phoebe coats some stuff with it. So I thought that was interesting, right? You got to mod the packs to do something else, and she mods the one pack.
Which now has a green color, the particle beam anyway, and which is very extreme Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I love
green
that.
beams.
Yeah, I love that. So just a different style beam, but like fits right in with the lore of everything we know, right? If you enjoyed the real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters, like this really carries those notes and ties all that stuff into the movie world, which is great. I loved it.
Yeah.
We kind of see the red parkas. Like they don't ever explain the red parkas. Everyone just has them. So I'm assuming that's just for
they don't
cold
need
weather.
to explain clothes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
they didn't ever explain the jumpsuits in the first movie, so like I don't know why we would expect these to be explained.
Yeah, so I think you just kind of see that, and then obviously Possessor Ghost gets in there and tries to run everyone over with the Ecto-1.
Yeah, that's
backs
fun.
into him. That was a good scene. We completely skipped over Trevor's second attempt at Slimer, which is still funny.
With the Cheetos.
Yeah.
Gets slimed again.
Mm-hmm. But
jumping
back,
James A. Caster gets slimed by Slimer and is kind of out for the rest of the little game there.
Was it? No, he got slimed by Pukey upstairs.
Oh, it's Pukey. That's right.
Yeah, because he's like, how'd you get all the way up here? And that's cute. Like, it's kind of funny that he gets slimed by him and he's out.
Yeah, he was like, I was worried you were one of the scary ones.
Mm-hmm. And then, the firehouse stuff's pretty cool. So we see the Slimer actually kind of save the day because the Possessor Ghost is just fucking terrorizing the place. It possesses one of the proton packs. And this is like really one of those extreme moments in there where Gary is willing to sacrifice his life to save Phoebe's. And,
or Trevor, isn't it?
No, it's Trevor, yeah. So he basically steps in front of what the proton beam would be, and then that's when we get the Fire Master is able to control the proton stream and is able to save Gary and Trevor from that. So that was pretty cool. And then he gets pretty confident in that, and then eventually Garraka kind of shows up there to fuck shit up.
Yep, and everybody's there to attempt to whoop some ass. Regular proton beams aren't working; they get frozen, and Fire Master slides down the pole with his Nikes. And we sort of have our final confrontation.
Yeah, so Melody's character pretty much flips here, and she's been carrying this matchbook around with her the whole time that she can light the matches in.
Yeah.
And so during this battle, like the Fire Master has fucking used all the lighter fluid in the what is that, a Zippo, looks like.
Yeah.
And so it's out of lighter fluid. They can't get it going. That's how they get frozen over. Phoebe comes up with her pack and like kind of hurts Garraka, or has success battling Garraka with that. And then essentially what happens is that
Melody lights her matches.
Yeah, she lights her matches, and that's what it's able to help the Fire Master actually use fire against it. So there's like this fire battle with the proton streams on there.
Yeah, and like Phoebe, Callie and Gruberson are like supporting Phoebe and helping her, like just like Egon, essentially.
Yeah, they're basically helping her hold the blaster, and then they realize like the containment unit, and I forget the exact verbiage they use, but the containment unit is having some issues, but they said if they do like a forced reset on or something like that, it would do something miraculous, and essentially it does.
Yeah, save the day.
Yeah, basically, when they do that, it sucks Garraka into the containment unit, essentially. So, pretty cool. I had a good time.
Yeah, the day was saved.
Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, like, I know we had this initial discussion with it, you're like, that seems like that happened really fast. But when you look at Ghostbusters 1, like, Gozer has very little screen time. It's just only a few minutes. So the fact that Garraka is kind of built up throughout this is in line with that. Vigo was a little different because we got some Vigo screen time ahead of time, but that was like the Ghost version, just the floating head. That Wizard of Oz version. And then like actual Vigo is a very short sequence as well. So like it kind of falls in line with everything. Not too far out of line when you like stop and assess it. And so you're like, okay. But it did feel like that last act went fast, but that's because there's a good amount of setup going up in there, kind of getting us where we need to go.
And then we have after that, everybody's yelling like Ghostbusters, you know, they're all stoked for him. Peck and the police and everybody showed up. And essentially, since everybody's happy with the Ghostbusters, Winston kind of turns it on Peck and is like, yeah, motherfucker, you better recognize, because otherwise these people are going to hate you. And somebody shouts Dickless in the background.
Yeah. So, yeah, Peck comes down there to try to shut him down once and for all, and then everyone's like going for it. And then Winston's basically like, yeah, you need to basically acknowledge him. So he forces him to like put his tail between his legs and like give them credit and say that like they're congratulating them, which is pretty fun. I got a kick out of that. And then you know, they're the heroes, and then
Melody gets the dematerialized like Egon.
I
like the discussions they had about becoming part of the universe and not being religious and shit. That was interesting.
Becoming fabric of the universe, right? Like the unfinished business piece, like kind of seemed natural. Like Phoebe's having that conversation. The themes they have in here are interesting as well, because like Phoebe's struggling with like existing, right? Which I think every fucking teenager does at some point.
Right.
Like
she's literally like, what's that? Yeah, that's fucked up.
And then like she asked Ray earlier on, like, hey, you know, have you ever thought about being a ghost? She's like, I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
And very fascinating stuff, like just to kind of show that everyone has these thoughts or these struggles. And then I liked how we had a variety of ghosts in there. We had tons of new ghosts, tons of fun ghosts, and then like ghosts that are still very humanoid to kind of carry on with what we saw in Afterlife, right? And then obviously Melody's purpose was to help out with this. Like that was the unfinished business there. And like, don't get all the ins and outs of it, but I think she had guilt for playing with matches, essentially, is what kind of comes down to. And like finally finding peace with that is kind of like what set her free. So that was neat. And then credits. And then we get that mid-credit scene, which is pretty funny. Because at first I wasn't sure. I thought it was the possessor ghost in the mid-credit scene. And then we see basically we see a truck driver get out and like go to a vending machine, and he's trying to like get a snack or something. It's not working. And then fucking tractor trailer gets stolen by Mini Puffs, and then we see it's a fucking Stay Puft Marshmallows trailer attached to the truck. So
yeah,
I got a kick out of that. It was a fun scene, like doesn't necessarily set anything up other than the fact that like there's more going on, so it was fun.
Yeah.
No post credit scene, and I was good with that. Like, you don't always have to set something up, but just knowing that there's more adventures, I'm good with. Very excited with it. Overall, like I was very pleased with the movie. And when we were done, it felt like it went really fast because run length was what, an hour and 50 minutes or so.
Something.
So obviously Afterlife is the longest in the series so far. This is much shorter because, a lot less to kind of set up and do there with it, but still overall I enjoyed it a lot. The word I used on the cross strip when I described the movie with one word was magnificent, because it opens up a lot of doors for shit that hasn't been done in the movies before, right? And so we saw a lot of new stuff. None of it felt
I like the variety of ghosts too. We have everything from the spooky, silly ones to humanoid ghosts to monstrous demigod ghosts.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. And like, I don't know if they exactly say Garraka was a god or not, something along those lines, but it's kind of became powerful to be that way, but it obviously didn't start that way. So it's pretty interesting.
yeah,
And I like how they used some lore that was different, obviously, with with Gozer being Sumerian. This kind of played off of, I guess you'd say, Middle Eastern or potentially Eastern culture influence there, right? They don't exactly spell it out for you, but kind of what it's implied.
yes,
So
pretty
it
cool.
was, it was fun that there's some stuff going on around there and potentially things worldwide. And then the fact that all the Ghostbusters were in there for quite a few things really made sense. It felt good to have them all back and kind of be there.
The comedy was just great in this one too. It was back in full force, so stoked for that.
When Nadim comes down the fire pole with that metal suit on, it's like screeching down really slow, like fucking great. The comedic timing was great. And everyone has their own style of humor in this, so it works really well that it's not just Bill Murray carrying all the humor in there, right? You've got subtle humor, you've got laugh out loud humor, you've got physical humor, like you get a little bit of everything in here. So it's pretty well balanced as far as the humor goes.
Yeah.
There's very few things that I didn't like about it. There's a couple of dialogue lines that I'm like, they could have done without, really, that were just like over explaining shit that you didn't really need, but really minor things for me to nitpick at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's things you can nitpick at, but overall, it's the biggest, best episode of Real Ghostbusters
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And Extreme Ghostbusters for that matter, right? Because you had like these vibes of
the old and the new.
Yeah, you had the back in the saddle vibes and like working together and like, hey, we're not too old to do this. Like, yeah, there's gonna be times where everyone needs to team up. And then the stakes were pretty real in this movie, right? I was already joking immediately because we didn't talk about this one, but there's the fire starter smoke and vape shop where Garraka goes first and kills the clerk.
Yeah.
And like you see his head frozen rolls across the floor. So I was like, well, that's going to be a ghost they need to bust in the next movie, is the ghost of the fire starter smoke shop.
Yeah, we need a vape shop ghost action figure.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was good to have that in there. Like, obviously the people in the 1904 thing all died from that. And then, like, I was worried, knowing the influence of Real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters, that they're going to magically have everyone thaw out and like be okay that like died or froze or broke apart, which
one person did. So I'm pretty sure everybody's fine. I never really showed anybody dying.
Yeah, the vape shop person, I'm assuming, is like a permanent death.
That's it, though. I don't feel like anybody else actually died in the modern world.
No, it's hard to say because like the Ghostbusters all get froze over pretty good, and then they're able to like unthaw once Phoebe's pack starts weakening Garraka.
Yeah.
And then obviously Firestarter comes in. Like at first I didn't know how I felt
Fire
about
Master.
the Firemaster, Firestarter, whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
You're talking about the Prodigy song?
Yeah, exactly. No, so I enjoyed that. I thought it was a good addition because there's obviously lots of things outside of that, and then ancient ghost busting. Oh, that was one of the lines though, where they basically spelled out. They're like, oh, so like ancient Ghostbusters, and you're like, well, yeah, we all fucking are smart enough to put two and two together, but
Yeah, that's one. Like, it's just some exposition that I didn't need, but it's fine. It's whatever. Because
yeah, and
other
like
people were complaining that there wasn't enough exposition lines. I'm like, not everything needs explained, and I can guarantee it that it's intentionally not explained. Like they're aware that they didn't explain it, and they don't need to.
yeah, yep, for sure. But like this felt like a big fun Ghostbusters movie. I'd love to see more, man. Like I'm stoked to see this again and again. Like I think the rewatchability of this is much higher than Afterlife. Afterlife has such serious tones in there, and it's it's a little bit longer of a film. But I feel like you can throw this one on, and the action's always going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it again. Again, check out our talk about actually attending the premiere in a previous episode we released. And we're going to have video coverage of the premiere as well, and all the different festivities that we took part in while in New York. Please also like and subscribe.
What would you rate this movie out of 10 after one viewing?
Well, if we're going on a scale here, and my favorite movie of all time is Ghostbusters, which would be a 10 out of a 10.
Mm-hmm.
Ghostbusters 2 is probably personally 9 out of 10.
Okay.
If I'm ranking the Ghostbusters movies, as of right now, I'm thinking Frozen, it's going to go Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, probably Frozen Empire.
Okay.
Probably Answer the Call and then Afterlife.
Okay. That's a fair assessment, right?
For a personal ranking right now, could always change. I love them all. I'm just stoked. We have 5 fucking Ghostbusters movies now.
Yeah, we've had 3 Ghostbusters movies come out in less than a decade.
That's 60% more Ghostbusters movies than we had 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's fucking beautiful, right? You're not going to like every single moment of every single one of them, but I really enjoyed this. Like, I'm really excited to see this again. And the fact that they just set up so much stuff, and then all the stuff you worry about a little bit as a fan, like none of that really bothered me. Like the fact that they have new packs in there, it makes sense. You got the research lab doing all their own shit. They need to have their own equipment there.
None of that worried me.
Yeah. But I thought that was fun. Like, and like the way they justified all that, like, yeah, the basic concepts of everything's there. It's always fun to have new gear to build, especially as a prop builder. Like, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. If I were rating it out of 10, yeah, I would say right now, first viewing 9 out of 10. Right? The few little things that I didn't necessarily love weren't enough to distract me or like take away my enjoyment on any kind of reviewing. So
yeah, I mean the ending there where they're just kind of like, somehow this will trap Garraka in the containment unit that's exploded. Kind of seems a little bullshitty, but also, if you think about it, so does the ending of Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, where they're like, maybe if we just like shoot the painting with some slime and proton beams at the same time, like it'll explode and like Vigo's he's like trapped now.
yeah,
like it doesn't really make much sense, but it's whatever, it works.
Well, yeah, specifically when you say that, right? So Ghostbusters 1, clearly they all would have fucking died in the explosion up there. There's no way you'd fucking live.
Yeah.
So no big deal. And then Ghostbusters 2, yeah, to your point, they're finally facing a human ghost and they don't trap it. They spray it with slime and proton beams and it fucking falls into a painting. Okay, that's fine, right? So when you think of it in terms of finales and screen time and all that, it very much in line with all the other stuff. But when you watch that stuff as a kid, you don't think about it now. So like, I feel like there's certain level of critique that you just have to take away and just enjoy the movie for what it is, right? You can't overthink some of this shit. Now, there are things you can overthink easily, but I really, really enjoyed myself with this movie. I can't wait to watch it over and over again.
Yeah.
Like the comedy being back, like the characters all felt right. They all felt like characters we know. Like the writing for the human element and the character element, and this is great. Right. And there's the one thing you can say about Ghostbusters 1, and there's just like no human story arc, right? The Ghostbusters save the day, but like as far as personal growth goes, like we don't see anyone like
The most
go
you get
on.
is that romantic relationship, which is put into. That's what they did in comedy movies in the 80s and 70s and 90s. You had that romantic thread of Peter and Dana throughout Ghostbusters. And same in Ghostbusters 2, it's still there.
Yeah. So in this, but like we get like Phoebe overcomes on her journey, like the whole family has growth in their characters. Like even Ray is like less resentful of what's going on with it. Like helping out and saving the day again, right? You know, you kind of see where he's not like pissed about it, because if he was really resentful, he could be like, well, fucking deal with it yourself.
Yeah.
But he's there to help. And then but I mean, I would say the Spengler family themselves and Gary, like really kind of have that growth of as a family unit and getting through their issues there. So I enjoyed that.
Alrighty then. Well, I guess that's all we have to say about that for now.
Yeah, hopefully you like that review. Be following back up because we're going to do some more. Once we see this a second time, we'll have some follow-up thoughts. Once we review that, and we'll probably have a guest or two join us for the follow-up and kind of see where they're feeling after a second viewing.
Yep.
All right.
Alrighty.
Later.
Good night.
Your mother!